Imagine landing in a new city, overwhelmed and mildly dramatic about it, and then one unfamiliar face slowly becomes your emergency contact, therapist, food buddy, and the beginning of your adult friendship era. Hello, hello. This is me, your host, Shafali, welcoming everyone to this very special episode of season 2 of Ranting and Relieving. So, as promised, on today's episode, I have someone very, very special with me, and you will hear all about her. I'll give her the mic to introduce herself. But just for context, she was my first friend in New York. She was the first person outside my own bubble that I've met, and I'm so glad I met her. So, with that, I introduce my first friend in New York, Kat, to you all. Hi, Kat.
Hi everyone. I She said I should introduce myself. So hi everyone. I'm Kat, her ex roommate slash friend. So initially when we became roommates, I started introducing her as my roommate, and she was like, "Are we not friends?" So from that then on, I started introducing her as Shafali, my roommate slash friend.
Actually, it should be friend slash roommate, Kat, because we
Roommate
became.
slash friend. Now it's actually ex roommate slash friend, but
Okay,
it's
fine. For the context, Kat does a lot of things. I'm feeling honored right now that she's on this podcast. She
honored.
she does a lot of things, like you can follow her to get the recommendations to eat around New York. What should you eat? Where should you eat? Budget eating, fancy eating. She got it all. Fun fact, I have never been on TikTok, but she's the one who made me join TikTok to support her journey, where she posts about a lot of cute and interesting stuff. So we will plug all the details in this episode.
Well, I think she is overselling me. It's like me and my 700 followers. Not even, oh my God, sorry. Me and my like 400 followers on TikTok. But yeah, feel free to, we'll put in the details later on, but feel free to follow my journey because Shafali is also makes her
Appearances.
occasional appearances on my
Follow her.
Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, we'll make sure to share that at the end of the session.
Yes. So I am very excited about this, and I know Kat is as well. We both have been sitting on this idea of doing a podcast together for, a year and a half now. And if
Yeah.
this works out, guys, if you love us, then you will be hearing a lot of us, and we have so many things to talk about. So this will be very exciting.
Yeah, we one thing we hope from this episode is you feel the chemistry that has built between me and her since we met for what, like 4 years ago
Yeah.
now. So yeah, if this works out, you'll hear more from us, but we'll try here first.
That's true. So, Kat, do you like? I always talk on this podcast. So, do you want to talk about how weirdly we met? Do you remember?
Okay. Yes, I do. Well, I'll start even before we
Oh
came to
God.
New York because everything kind of started on WhatsApp. So I Shiv always mentioned it in her podcast, but she moved to New York for grad school, and so did I. And that's where essentially we met. But even before coming to New York, we met through WhatsApp because people were starting to make group chats. Of like the incoming students of that year. And I had a question, I think, about visas on WhatsApp. And she had the answer for some reason. So she pinged me through that. And then we started talking. Um, I think that was like we moved in August, and that was like in April, like very early on. And I was asking her like a bunch of questions. Later did I find out she thought I was so clingy because I was asking her questions. Um, but so that's how our friendship started, and then well, not yet friendship. That's how we got acquainted. And then in March, if it's not obvious yet, in like the 30 seconds that you've been hearing me talk, I am very friendly, very extroverted. And so even before moving to the city, I kind of got all our grad school classmates together through a Zoom call because I knew and I understood that um a lot of us were international, so a lot were coming from all around the world and coming to New York, some for the first time. So I had hosted this Zoom session with a few of our classmates, and obviously Shafali was there. So that's like the second time we unofficially met. But even before that, I was seeing her in orientation, and she was asking like very nerdy questions. She asked, she we had our grad school orientation, and she asked if there was um a dress code in the school, if she had to wear like formal attire, and I was like, No." But anyway, so we have had some small run-ins with each other even before coming to New York, but we officially met when obviously we all moved in August, ahead of the school year.
But full
And not
disclosure, Kat,
Yeah.
the random weird question about dress codes. So, coming from India, we always had dress codes in our MBA schools as well. There was a full conversation with professors about it. Wear this, wear that, and these kind of clothings are barred. So, I was curious. I have never been here. So, I was like, is there a dress code? So, I
Yeah,
know.
so I mean, I think this is a good example of what they're gonna see further in this episode, is how some of the cultural differences really coming from India, going into the US, and me coming from the Philippines, which we admittedly um we've spoken so many times has a lot of American influence, and so your transition to American culture was aided not just by me but obviously the friends that you have made here, and it's one of the things that we're gonna be able to touch on in this episode too, which they will see.
That's true.
Fast forward to August, as I was saying, again because we were a lot of people from our programs were coming from all around the world. There was someone in that group chat that everyone was in, who suggested we all grab lunch. Um, and so, of course, me being new to the city, being very friendly, I was excited to meet new people. So I signed up for the lunch. I was going to show up. Shafali was also planning to show up. Um, Lo and behold, that day comes, and of like the 100 people in that group chat, 3 people show up, and it's me, Shafali, and a third person, which you will hear about her a lot in this session, because those 3 people that had lunch that day, um, they kind of stuck around for the next 4 or 5 years, and now we're here and we're really great friends.
Yeah.
But that's how we met, is in a group chat of 100 people planning to go to lunch together. 3 people showed up: me, Shafali, and Maddie, who is one of our greatest, bestest friends as well here in the city.
And I'm hoping to bring her on the podcast as well. So, Maddie, if you're listening to this, I will formally invite you on the podcast. But for now, this is your invitation. And Kat is forgetting one important detail, which I'll mention. So when I came to US, we needed to get that COVID vaccination during that time. And I had different vaccine in India, and that was not being accepted in US. So I had to go through this COVID testing every week at school before the school even started. We used to meet whenever I will go for my COVID testing. And that's how we started hanging around the city. And this first lunch that she's mentioning, that was very funny, very funny. It was my soft launch, like towards non-vegetarian food, I would say. Because when we sat down, that was a Mexican restaurant, right, Kat? Where
Yes,
you,
yes.
Maddie,
Rosa
yeah.
Mexicana. Plugging them in if they wanna sponsor your podcast.
So yeah, Rosa Mexicana near Midtown Manhattan. We went there for our first lunch together. And what was interesting, it was a Mexican restaurant, of course. So we got to know Kat does not eat beans, and I do not eat non-vegetarian. And Maddie was looking at us like, "What the hell? These women are here for lunch to a Mexican restaurant, and now what do we order?" Because for context, those of you who don't know about New York much, most of the places you get a lot of non-vegetarian selection and limited vegetarian selection. For vegetarians, you can find fries everywhere, but not actual food. So it was a very interesting lunch, and recently we found out we also had a picture from that lunch. I don't know who clicked that picture. Which one of us asked the server to take a picture?
You, I remember distinctly it was you. That's why I was like, "Oh, girl, this girl is
Oh
such a
God.
nerd." She wants a picture, but I mean, just be happy that it actually worked out that the three of us are still friends. But if you just had that random picture in your phone of like three random girls you have never spoken to again, now that's
You
weird, but
know,
it's good now because we're actually friends.
maybe I had a feeling because I have random pictures with other people who I am not friends with, and I never ask for those pictures. Those people ask for that pictures.
Yeah, well, just be happy it worked out because then that
Yes,
that
I'm very
that
happy.
picture on your phone is just not sitting there taking up space. It actually means something.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, that was basically like the beginning of it when you were finally in New York taking your COVID tests on a weekly. And then the next thing we know, we were starting school, and something that I immediately, I don't know if you noticed it, but when we first got into Fordham, is the diversity in our
Right.
classmates. I can only speak for a cohort, obviously, but I think about 60-70% of our classmates then were actually from India. After our Indian folks, the next biggest chunk, I think, are our classmates from China. And then
Right.
it's just small groups here and there of different cultures, but not as big as the Indian groups and the China groups. Um, and I think that's just the reality of how it the graduate school system here in the US is very attractive to those countries. But me as a Filipino coming into Fordham, my default is to find those like one, three people, if any, in our class that is actually Filipino. So I'm not sure if we mentioned, but Maddie is Filipino, and that's how I kind of knew her. Um, she is not in our immediate cohort, but I did find Ken, will introduce Ken, who is a Filipino and is actually our classmate. The three of us were in marketing. So I found myself naturally drawn to obviously folks from back home because it's when you're in a situation where everything is new, that is like your default and the easiest thing. Um, it just so happens that between you and me, Shafali, even though we come from very different cultures, it was very clear from the very beginning, again, even before coming to New York, that the universe wanted us to connect for some,
I
right? Like,
know. I know.
from that question I had in April to like our class hang in May, to you coming to the city for COVID testing, and I was always available to hang out. So I think that was one of like very early on, even if we didn't have the same backgrounds or we didn't come from the same country, we were already hanging out, which I think back then, especially in like week 2 or 3, is not very common because
That's true.
the natural default obviously is to find our people from back home, which I did. I found them
Yeah,
as
I
well,
did
but
not.
we'll get into that. But I found them, but also I always had you too. Like it wasn't like
Mhm.
I found you somewhere along the line. You were also like a day one person. I think even before I found
Aw.
some of the Filipinos. Um. So yeah, that's I think one very interesting thing about our Fordham journey.
I'm loving it, Kat, because these are those of the sweet moments where you are nice to me. Rare occasions. Because otherwise, my Filipino friend language is they're brutal. They joke.
So
My-
for our listeners, for a little bit of context, our Filipinos, especially I think the group that she found, Filipinos can vary, but there's a certain group of Filipinos whose love language is teasing, poking fun, pulling your leg, and Shafali ended up finding those Filipinos. And she's saying she's mean, we do it with love. We're mean with love, tough love.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's why I'm stuck to you guys. That's why I like to hang out with you guys because I know that's how you love. And I love my friends for that. But you're right, Kat, when you say that we were meant to be, because remember I took a deferral. I was
Right.
supposed to be here in 2020, but I took a deferral, so I was in the same batch with you. Otherwise, we would not have met, or we would have just met for a coffee chat, talking about how our experiences have been at Fordham. But that's about it. But we were clearly meant to be. And you made a very good point about seeking for familiarity when you're moving so far from your country. I think I also looked for it in some people,
Right.
but then the constant judgment, because I have been so vocal about my journey. So, right, I think on during the orientation days itself, people knew about my past, about my
Mm.
background, and all the Indians that I met, they were highly judgmental. They were commenting on everything: the food I eat, the people I hang out with, the clothes I was wearing
Mm.
to any of these events that the school organized. So I was getting so much judgment, but you guys gave me that safe space to be
Mm-hmm.
myself. And it was so easy. You guys treated it like, okay, that is something that happened to her. It is sad, but that does not define her.
Right.
While others were defining me from that. So I guess that's why, rather than seeking that familiar context, I was more comfortable with you guys.
Yeah, and that's first of all, I've always said this, but it was so shocking to me how much of your past was being used to define your present and your future. That's always been shocking to me about your journey. And again, I think we speak about what you've been through and Mr. K a lot in our I'm calling him Mr. K because it's the podcast.
That is
Um
so cute.
we talk about um what you've been through, and it's something that, like, what I'm gathering from just the things I've heard and your experiences, instead of like, people are so easy to have you move on from it, but also have the rest of your lives be defined by it. Like, how does that make sense?
That is so
Like,
right.
the same, it seems like the same people who say it's time to move on, it's time for another partner, you shouldn't be talking about him, is also the same people who say, how are you living so normally? How are you
Yeah,
dressing up in certain ways? Like, choose a lane. Like,
I know, right?
those two things are very contradictory. How could you expect the person to move on from the relationship, but also in her process of moving on, not allow her to go back to what she was, or to find what her life looks like outside of that past? And that's something that's was very clear what from the very beginning, since you started sharing your story with us. That was very shocking to me.
Yeah, it is shocking. And if you remember, Kat, during when I was trying to date in New York, then also I came across so many instances where people were fine to hang out with me, but they had this reservation about my past. So it has not stopped. And I don't know, maybe I do know, actually, I do know that I think it's just more of an Indian mindset thing. Maybe it's not with
Hmm.
the other cultures, but you are right. I have found it so contradictory and so hypocritical as well. People will come to me and say these things. But that is the thing with you guys. I can talk about my past. I can talk about Mr. K. I can talk about anything and still talk about moving forward in my life. You know,
Yeah.
you like, okay, so for all the listeners, this is what I found refreshing about all my Filipino friends, that they were not judgmental. They they might scold me, they might like
Hmm.
tease me or do whatever they do with me, but they have
Yeah.
always been supportive.
Yeah. And honestly, I think, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. I think we were meant to talk about other things, but we'll just let it flow.
Yeah.
I think to being um being concerned about your friend and voicing out missteps is not the same as
Hmm.
being judgmental. I feel like judgmental
That
is
is
when
true.
it's shallow, but I think with our
Hmm.
friendship, together with the group, is it starts with judgment, but there's a follow through of, let's discuss why this is, or let's discuss your decision behind it, and then we'll support you nevertheless. You know what I mean? Like, judge. I
Yeah,
feel like judgmental. Oh wow!
I think what you're trying to say is that that judgment does not come from a place of
Right, right.
gossip. It comes from a place of concern
Yeah,
that we are afraid that this might impact our
yeah,
friend badly. So we are judging in that sense, but not we are judging to
yeah.
define the character of other person as a friend. So that is one thing that defines our
Yeah.
friendship. Wow.
Whoa, that is what was on our list. This was not what we were supposed to talk about. It's because I started talking about Kanishkin, so we're here.
So now that we're talking about friendships and finding each other, so as I told my listeners already, that I moved to New York because it was the financial capital of the world. But this is where Kat and I differ because she always loved New York.
Yeah, so one of the things that we pull Shafai's leg about is her adamant reason, her very big reason to coming to New York is because it's the financial capital of the world. Even though she's not,
It
it
was.
is, but even so, she,
It
yes,
is.
she says that it's the financial capital of the world. But what's funny is she's not in finance, so I don't know how that actually impacts her. Um,
And our company
yeah,
headquarters is in
not in New
Chicago,
York.
not even in New York.
But yes, yeah, but she's right. Our reasons for coming to New York are very different. I think we've heard her share her own reasons and what really pushed her and her family to encourage her to come here. But unlike her, I have known, I think, since for a very long time, since I was 8 years old, maybe the first time I ever saw Times Square, that I was going to, that New York was somehow the home that I've always been looking for. And I think we had very different journeys in a way that, since me being so young, seeing the city, coming here since I was a very young child, and knowing, being drawn to the city, and kind of because of that, planning my life around actually coming here is a very different story from hers. New York has always drawn me. Its energy has always been exciting to me. So unlike her who moved here for the financial capital of the world, I essentially moved here for the vibes. That is short answer. I moved here for the vibes, planned my whole life around it. But because of that, the very early days of New York, honestly, let's be honest with ourselves, to date, um what really made us good friends is me dragging her around the city and teaching her how to use the subway or the street signs,
Oh yeah. Oh
the
yeah.
left from right, which are the avenues, and then from the north to south, which are the numbered streets. So that's one of the reasons too why we got so close so fast, is because she was learning a new city and I was learning it too. But unlike her, I was a little bit more familiar because I had planned my life around this and I had always known that I love New York. And so obviously I was looking for buddies to drag around the city with, do some free things, try some new food. And Shafali, being Shafali, was always available because she was always in the city for a COVID test. So I think that's one of the reasons why we really clicked. I think initially too, what's funny, and we should share with the listeners, is, remember when we would plan to go out, we would have to look at the menu if it had
Oh
vegetarian
yeah. Oh
options,
God.
because you were back then a transitioning vegetarian.
And you remember going to Los Tacos because I was saying that, oh, Kat, can we try some tacos in the city? I really love tacos. And you found the spot and you were like, these are the best tacos in New York and we should go there. We entered and the vegetarian option was cactus.
Right, Nopal?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not eating cactus. And then we went to some diner where I ended up trying steak. That's what I remember.
Yes, because I had steak and eggs and you wanted to try it.
Yes, yeah.
Which, for our, I mean, I'm sure you guys know, even for our veg listeners, steak is typically made by beef. And something you might not know is, in the Indian culture, beef is, they venerate beef. It is one of their most respected animal
I know. Oh
and
no,
a
people
good
are gonna kill
representation
me.
rituality. But yeah, she did try. I was there. I was witness to her first trying beef,
You
which is,
actually cut a small bite for me, like, here you go, try it, try it.
yes, but yeah, so it's just crazy. We were essentially learning a new city together. I was teaching you how to eat non-vegetarian food,
Yes.
giving you bits and pieces of the food that I had. And you were so open to it, so I love food and I was going to share and let you try and explain to you how to cut chicken. Which, also, fun fact, very early on,
Oh
also
God.
I used to cut her chicken for her because
Oh
she
yes.
didn't know
Oh
how to eat
yes. Like especially the bone-in chicken.
the
Even
bone and
even if
chicken.
we are with in a company of other people, she would cut my chicken. Like she would feed me like a mother. Hair child. Let
Yeah,
me cut it for
here,
you.
try it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, crazy.
Yeah. I was just saying that. Yeah, that was that is the difference between us, because I have never been to New York. I have never, explored even the idea of New York. So this entire thing was very new to me. And I was excited to know more about it. And you were excited about the city itself. You loved it. And I found my love in New York. I should be given my due credit as well that I was very open and I was very spontaneous when it came to trying experiences, be it restaurants, be it going out on a very, very limited budget that we had.
Yes, we were students, and I mean, we had some funding because we were
Yeah.
graduate assistants, which
Yes.
gave us a little bit of tuition credit, which
But
helped our
Kat,
pockets.
most of that I was using to pay off my loans.
Oh, I was using it to vibe, but yes, we were definitely balling on a budget. I remember one of the my favorite things that we've ever done is we took one Saturday we were in school, we took headshots. Um and then we obviously the headshot doesn't take long. So after that we
Mhm.
decided to just roam around and walk, and we ended up walking through Brooklyn Bridge and hitting Pebble Beach right as the sun set. And to date is one of our shared favorite places in the city, is just how beautiful and how I still look at my pictures from that day and go like, wow, this city is so amazing. um
The sky turned pink that evening,
yes,
you
pink,
remember?
orange, blue, all of the colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I can go on and on about how much I love New York and how our friendship was really built on us experiencing a new city together. But I think we have a lot more to talk about, so we'll move on from that.
There was one question that people would often ask is like, how are you doing it all? How are you doing it all? And I think what really helped me was Kat is a very organized person. So am I, but I learned one thing from her, the use of Google Calendar.
Yes.
Maxing it out. So we would have our days planned on Google Calendar, like different activities. And first of all, we also planned our classes like that. Like by 3:30 or 4, we are free. And then we can explore the city. We can do all the free stuff that's happening in the city because we
Mm-hmm.
are broke. We
We were.
were broke. So then how to vibe around the city with limited budget. And one of the prime reason we wanted to do it, this country has a lot of visa related issues like if you get picked up in the lottery or not, if you get a job or not. And there were certain things which were beyond
Yeah.
our control. That was the reason that we wanted to explore as much as we could if we had to go back the next year. So we don't have any regrets like, oh my God, I did not do that. I did not do this.
Yeah. When you're in a situation where you're put your time in a certain place is defined by what's on your passport,
Yeah.
that was kind of our mindset, is that if this was my last year in the city, yes, I'm broke, yeah, I'm coming back home with no savings, but at least I'm gonna look back at my time there knowing that I did everything that I wanted to do. um and so that was a so finding someone who was willing to do that too and had that exact same mindset, I think is really
Yeah.
one of the biggest reasons why we became friends. s- yes, so early on and like so fast and all that. Yeah.
And that I think helped us in becoming roommates as well,
Yeah.
because I was trying different accommodations in Jersey City to save on money, and it was closer to New York. So I thought that, yeah, it can work out. But I tried two accommodations, none of those worked out. And she was on that group chat where I will keep posting, does anybody have a space for a roommate? Because my accommodation fell apart. And then she called me one day and she was like, you just moved in. How did it fall apart again?
Right. Yeah, I remember that. You said that you were moving in this specific date. So I was like, okay, she's moving that day. I take a nap. I wake up from my nap and I see you were moving out from that place on that day. And I was like, she just moved in this morning. How is she moving out? Really crazy things with her past roommates. Really crazy things.
And I have never lived with anyone else apart from my family. So these roommates were becoming a horror show for me. I was like, this is how roommates supposed to be? So another roommate happened. She was even crazier, verbally abusing and whatnot. And that's when Kat and I decided when we were locked up in her apartment, in her studio, very tiny studio apartment one night after we had a COVID scare, that why are we doing this? Let's be roommates. Let's do it together.
Yeah, and then and ended up working out. You were seriously looking to move in January after your trip to from
Yeah.
India, and my student housing lease was up, so it actually worked out, and we were available at the same time, and we were always together anyway, so why not be roommates?
So that was my third move in 4 months. Yeah, in 4 months. That was my third move. But and we were given warnings as well that you guys are friends. Are you sure you guys gonna be roommates? Because you can either be friends or roommates. But I'm so glad that it worked out.
Yeah. And we've I think like yes, that does happen, but all you're the second roommate I've ever had in my life. And the first roommate I also had was a very, very close friend of mine. So I think
Mhm.
it really just it can go wrong, but I was coming into the mindset that it was gonna work out and everyone
Yeah.
else was just
Yeah.
being negative.
So, Kat, on this, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How will you rate me as a roommate and your past roommate as a roommate?
Oh my gosh, don't put me in that situation. You guys were exactly what I needed and exact times of my life. That is what I'm gonna say. No comparison, and I will not ever compare.
The diplomatic Pinoy here for you guys.
Yes. That's why I'm likable. I'm kidding.
So yeah, we became roommates, but our craziness, I think, enhanced from that stage because within the first month, Cat, we had that toilet seat thing.
Yes. So
Okay, first of all,
she
disclaimer: it is very dirty, but you're gonna listen now.
yeah, yeah, if you're eating, maybe pause this
Pause.
podcast first and come back to it. We gave you the warning. Um but yeah, so a part of being roommates, it was my first proper apartment in the city because I was living in student housing before that. Shefali was clearly not committing to any roommates. First proper apartment, and for people who have never been to New York or don't really are is not familiar with New York apartments, it a very classic New York apartment will be a walk up with no amenities, nothing like that. No laundry, no dishwasher. Our apartment in particular was 4 flights up, which we climbed up every day. And these typically are pre-war buildings that have very old pipes. And that's how we're gonna start talking about the famous toilet seat incident of our first apartment together. So yeah, I don't really know what happened. The next thing I knew
It
was
exploded.
the toilet seat had exploded, and there was I can't say it. There were things that come from your body that should only go directly to the toilet. It was on the kitchen floor. So the water overflowed to the kitchen floor, and all the contents of the toilet was now in the kitchen. And that was I think that was like what, 3 weeks in as roommates, and was like the first actual test of us. This was a make or break if we were gonna survive cleaning feces
Oh
from the
God, you said it.
kitchen. We were going to survive being roommates. Maybe I'll protect the persons who caused it, but so we'll it was between the two of us obviously, but I won't say who.
Thank you.
But she said thank you, so you guys can deduce who it was. But yeah, that was a break or break moment for our roommateship. Also because we both came from countries where admittedly we had help growing up. So we probably have cleaned toilets in the past, but we've never had to plunger a toilet and do anything crazy like that or mop feces from the kitchen floor. I don't think our help has ever even done that either. Um but yeah, coming from a very, I will say,
Yeah.
privileged upbringing, we were now in the middle of a very expensive city, paying an absurd amount of rent, cleaning poop off our
Okay, Kat, you
kitchen
have said
floor.
it multiple times when you said that you were not gonna say it. So yeah, she's right. We have never done it back home. And I remember the morning it started acting up. We had no idea. We are like the princess of our like India and princess of Philippines who have never done this kind of thing. So we were going to hardware store to get plunger and drain eggs and everything because our super was out that day. He said, I'll take care of it after 2 days when I come back. So we were not gonna live by that. And we had the holy party we were supposed to go.
That was
And I
all that
remember,
same day? Oh my god.
yeah, and I remember when it happened, Kat, I was taking tequila shots in my room with my friends in India,
Oh,
because
you were cheersing. Yeah, yeah, I remember.
yeah, I moved to a new place and and you started screaming, and I was like, oh, my roommate is screaming, I have to go. And then the scenery was not nice
Wait, how did it like overflow? I don't even remember.
because
I
we
I
put a lot of Drainax, I think, into it, and then you were like, the water is not going down, and it was up to the surface, and then you did not stop. You flushed it because the bottle said flush it after 30 minutes, and you flushed it. And I was like, why did you do that?
Oh my god. See
And
folks, people often glamorize a New York
yeah,
lifestyle. Well, that's the reality of a New York lifestyle. Climbing up 4 flights of stairs, dragging your laundry, and sometimes these old pipes give out and you have stuff to clean off your kitchen that is
yeah.
not supposed to be there.
And we
Crazy.
were so ready for that party, and we were like, we have a party to go, and now this. So we cleaned up, but we did not do the laundry part of our rugs and everything, which we did next day because we were so drunk after that party. I remember falling in that tub also after the party I came home.
That's crazy.
I know.
Very
That
crazy
was-
times.
But that defined our friendship. That was a turning moment when we did that
Yeah.
together.
And our roommate ship again, that was like 3 weeks in.
Yeah. And
Very, very fresh.
And I remember when we went to that party, do you remember, Kat, a lot of conversation about both of us coming from different cultures and different countries and becoming roommates now? And how I was telling you, I was warned that she'll be cooking all sorts of food that I'm not
Mm-hmm.
familiar with, and how it will become an issue. And
Mm-hmm.
I found it strange because I remember you mentioning it once. Nobody talks about the smell of Indian food. We do a lot of like that tempering, that tadka kind of a thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember you always used to sneeze whenever I'm doing that, whenever I'm cooking
Yeah.
my lentils and stuff. So nobody talks about that.
Yeah, I remember a lot of the concern was that I cook a lot of non-veg
Yeah.
and how that was gonna impact you.
Hmm.
Um, but no one. When we actually became roommates, I was the one having reactions to what was being
Yeah.
cooked.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not. I love Indian food. It's not. I don't care. Like, yeah, I will
Mhm.
sneeze and cough whatever it is to get this beautiful, amazing food that I have. But isn't it interesting that the concern was on my food when our actual experience was I actually had a reaction when you were cooking, which
Exactly.
we never heard that. No one
Yeah.
ever mentioned that. It would have been nicer maybe if people's comments were, "You guys have very different food styles. How do you understand how that will impact each other?" But no, we always just heard that I was cooking non-veg and how was that going to impact you, which is like very eye-opening. Which to our shared credit, it never came from us.
Yeah.
Those thoughts were never something that we had brought up to the table, like, okay, we're going to be roommates. What about these things? It was always things that were coming from outside and very,
Like how you're saying that Indian food you always loved,
yeah,
irregardless of whatever you felt while it was cooking. That's how I felt about your food. Like I'm like, I'll always say that, oh, what are you cooking? That smells amazing. What are you
yeah,
cooking? Can I try? And I got mad one time when you finished your food and you did not make me try. I
yes,
was like,
yeah,
what is wrong with you? So yeah,
yeah,
those were, and I don't think we ever discuss what will being roommates entail to like some
yeah,
do's and
yeah.
don'ts, because I have been on those calls where people had an Excel sheet. These are some of the rules.
Oh my god.
This is what you should be doing and what you should not be. But we never had that discussion. We just found an apartment. We discussed on how much the real estate agent fees should be. We are not paying them
Mhm,
15% or something, but that's about it. Like, what should be
mhm.
the rent? That was our only concern. Nothing apart from that.
I think what was always nice about us being roommates is it was an actual
Yeah.
home. It was a
Yeah.
household. It wasn't like two strangers coming in living together. It was actually we had a good foundation as friends. We
Yeah.
weren't that close yet though. Like we really built on the friendship when we became roommates. But I think even before that, it was clear that if we were gonna live together, this was going to be a shared household. It's not gonna be this
Right.
side of the fridge is mine and that side of the fridge is yours. And I think that's also very nice. Was always has always been
Yeah.
unspoken. We never talked about it. We never discussed any of the things that people were concerned about. We were just
Yeah.
laughing it off,
We were
which is
vibing, as you would say. We were
again
vibing.
is the vibe.
I
The
remember
vibe.
getting angry at you, like, why are you asking? If you want to eat it, just eat it. Like, can I
Right.
take an egg? Can I take a banana? I'm like, why is she asking? Just take it, just use it. And I think this
Yeah.
goes to say about both of us that we have been so, like, adaptable. Is that the right word? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah. So
so.
all our friends should be very grateful that they found us because we are very adaptable. We mold. Yeah,
We're very
we are
nice.
very nice people. We mold into every situation. And yeah, we like to vibe. We
Yeah.
have been vibing for last 4.5 years. We have been vibing. That's going good for us. Would you agree to be on another episode of this podcast so that we can talk about our core group, our version of friends?
Friends, the sitcom? What? Like a group of friends who found themselves in New York where they hang out in a shared friend apartment? What do you mean? Of course, I would more than happy to go on that second episode. As you can all tell, I like to yap. So we'll continue yapping in the next episode.
Then we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, Kat. So that's how it started. One unfamiliar face in a city that felt too big, too loud, and too overwhelming. What I didn't know then was that this one friendship would become the foundation of my New York chapter. But New York has a funny way of multiplying connections, and in our next episode, we are opening the doors to our full New York universe, the friends, the stories, the chaos, the comfort, and everything in between. And trust me, that's where it gets even better. As promised, you can follow Kat on Cat Eats, and her TikTok handle is KINNYC. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss the next one. You can find me on Instagram at the Scribbled Solace, and as always, my DMs are open. Tell me about your first friendship in a new city. I would love to hear your story. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.